Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I have yet another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This is a movie from the United States. It's a horror film released in the year 2013, directed by Alexander Aja, and this film is called Horns. Now, Horns is a book adaptation. I haven't read the book, so if you've read the book, maybe this movie will really appeal to you. But it's basically about this guy who is madly in love with his girlfriend. He's about to propose to her, but one evening she is being found murdered. She's been bashed in the head. So the boyfriend is the prime suspect, and he believes that he's innocent, and he wants to prove it by getting some evidence to suggest that he didn't do it, and he also wants to find the person that did it, so to get a little bit of closure for his girlfriend, but he can't find it. His best friend is a lawyer that's trying to defend him, but things are looking worse and worse for this guy. So one day he wakes up with a lot of pain in his head. Now, this is very mysterious, and it gets even more mysterious when he realises that things are growing out of his head that appear to be horns. Now, he has no idea how this came about, but fairly soon people start to confess to bad things that they've been doing. So it's all very random. This guy's thinking, what the hell's going on? Why are these people telling me these things? But then soon he realises he has the power to make people confess to their wrongdoings. So he sees this as an opportunity to clear his name. If he can find the culprit responsible for murdering his girlfriend, hopefully they will confess. He'll get to the bottom of it, he'll clear his name, and he'll get some closure. But then all of a sudden, things get very, very complicated, and whether or not he can achieve what he sets out to do and his newfound power is going to be used in a positive way, that's something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now, my thoughts on Horns. I was very sceptical with Horns. Now, yes, it is based on a novel which I believe is fairly popular. So I haven't read the novel, which is a good thing because you don't have two things to compare it with. So I was judging this on the film itself. I wasn't judging it on a different material, which is giving the film every chance to impress. But the fact that Alexander Aja was directing it left me a little bit concerned, because Alexander Aja is a very, very good horror director. His movie High Tension in France was absolutely incredible, but then he came over to Hollywood. Now, he's made a few good Hollywood films, the Hills Have Eyes remake and also the Maniac remake, but apart from that, he's fallen into the Hollywood curse of selling out. He's making films for money. He's not making films being a horror lover, and it feels like he's not trying as hard as he did with his film High Tension, which is the pinnacle film for him. But so coming into Horns, I was thinking that maybe it would be like The Maniac, where it goes back to the French roots of shocking violence and movies that dare to push the boundaries. So I had that hope with it, but unfortunately for me, Horns was a real disappointment. But having said that, it does come with a few positives. Now, the positives are, it does have a very provocative theme to the film, which shows that Alexander Aja is trying to make people angry, and that's what a filmmaker should do. Not making a film to appeal to the wide masses. He's making a film for the simple fact that he's enjoying making films. It feels to me lately with P2 and Mirrors, he's not really enjoying it. Yes, they're well made, but it doesn't have the Alexander Aja feel to it. It feels like they're just made to make money. And obviously for a filmmaker, you want to make money, but you also want to have your own unique style. And I think Alexander Aja has lost that style, but it does slightly come back with Horns, is that it's a very quirky film. It's a very offensive film, especially if you're religious. If you're a hardcore Christian, you're going to hate this film because it is quite offensive, but it's done in a very funny way. And so the quirkiness to the film is the best part of it. I thought that the way these people start confessing the bad things that they've done, and the reaction from Daniel Radcliffe's character, who plays the main character, I thought that was priceless. Some of the way that these moments bounce off each other were really, really well done, and that's why I kept watching the film, is to see what someone else would confess to next. And it was just really wacky sort of stuff, and it felt like a Dean Koontz adaptation. Now, if you're familiar with the author Dean Koontz, recently a Dean Koontz adaptation has been done called Odd Thomas. Now, if you're familiar with Odd Thomas, you know that the characters are larger than life. You know, they're almost caricatures. It feels like they're from a different dimension, and that's what the quirkiness of a Dean Koontz novel is like. Is that these characters are very cheesy, but done in a very good way, and it feels like a cartoonish environment. And that's exactly what Horns did, is that the characters, the way they spoke, it was just a little bit strange, and it does take you into a different sort of world. And so it's a very vivid film. It's got a lot of vivid imagery. It's got very vivid characters, and the ways that they interact with each other is very strange. So I like that aspect of it. It had a unique feeling to it. And Alexander Aja, he does put a lot of colour into it, and he does show there is talent with this guy. But unfortunately for me, with Horns, it does have a very good start, but unfortunately the premise of the film, it does wear thin, and Alexander Aja really drops the ball. Now, to start with, Daniel Radcliffe, he plays an American. Now, we all know, from the Harry Potter films that he is British. And when he's speaking with American accent, the British sort of sound comes out in him. And therefore you feel to yourself, instead of getting into the character, you feel that something is really off here. He's speaking really weird. Even though it's a weird film, it still feels very much out of place in that he's trying to force this accent, where it would have been a lot better if he was a British citizen living in the United States, which is not a far stretch. People live in the United States from other countries, so why couldn't Daniel Radcliffe's character have a British accent? And that character would have been a lot better, because it felt like Daniel Radcliffe wasn't so comfortable with the accent that he was doing, therefore his acting wasn't as good. Although he has a lot of flavour to his character, it still felt a little bit hollow. It felt like he was in the confines of boundaries, and therefore when his girlfriend, he starts this development with his girlfriend, which is a side story, it doesn't work because the chemistry isn't there. The script isn't very good. And when you go for a murder mystery film, which is what the film is, on one hand it's a very quirky film, and on the other hand, it is a murder mystery film. So when you go into the present day, it does get fairly interesting. But when you go into the flashbacks and it documents Daniel Radcliffe's character and his girlfriend's life together, you don't care about it. You don't believe in the chemistry, therefore it becomes boring. And it really halts the progression of the film, because when it goes back to the present day, you start to get into it again, but then it goes back into a flashback that you just don't care about, because these characters feel like they're acting, and it feels like they're reading from a script. They're not genuinely feeling for each other. And so when the emotional moments happen, it just didn't hit me, and it felt like a movie where I was waiting for the present day to happen. So basically when it goes into flashback, you can go off and get a cup of coffee or do something else until it goes back to the good stuff. And that for me is what unfortunately lets the film down in a major way. I thought the soundtrack was decent. I can't recall the actress's name. Her first name is Juno someone, I believe. Feel free to tell me who it is. She does an okay job, but once again, the characters, although they're very colourful, it feels like they're missing a soul. It feels like they're missing a personality. It's missing that emotion that is needed for you to connect and feel that the chemistry is real. And that's to do with the other characters, well, the side characters, the supporting cast. They still don't do a very good job. It feels like it's all colourful, but inside it's missing a heart. It's missing a core. It's missing, the contents of a book. It's like a cover with nothing inside. It just feels empty. And so I really couldn't gain any connection with the characters. I couldn't gain any sympathy, and unfortunately it does hurt it, because there are a lot of moments that feel very much unnecessary, and it just becomes a distraction rather than the progression. So the end of the film was wacky. It does get crazy. I thought it was a fairly good way to finish the movie, but unfortunately there is a lot of material in this film that could have been cut out, could have gone down a completely different direction, because in the end what you get is a film that looks good, but unfortunately underneath it is lacking, and therefore it becomes boring. And I felt that Alexander Aja, this isn't the type of film he should be making, because he doesn't feel comfortable with it. It didn't feel like he knew which direction he wanted the film to go, whether it wanted to be a murder mystery, whether it wanted to be a comedy or a horror. He doesn't blend all of them in to make it, the film that it had to be. And what it had to be was a movie that was basically horror with a little bit of other element in it, or a murder mystery with a tiny bit of other element in it, because in the end what you get is a big mess, and it's a movie that I was disappointed with. So overall, for Horns, going to give it 2 stars, not coming recommended, but who knows, maybe you'll enjoy it more than I did. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.